Hello guys, this is Octavius, North American Archery. Thank you so much for tuning into our channel. Today I want to talk to you about split finger versus 3-under shooting. Stay tuned, and I think this is going to be an awesome. Alright guys, today we're going to talk about split finger versus 3-under shooting. Now I've shot for many years, like many of you, and I have went back and forth a few times, but currently I shoot split finger, and there's multiple reasons why. Some of them are personal and some of them is just from the experience of shooting 3-under. Now let me tell you right off the gate that it depends on your style of shooting and what you like to do. One is not necessarily better than the other one. They just have strengths and weaknesses. And so I want you to think about what your goals are as you are listening to some of the points I make for either style of shooting. Now, the biggest thing in today's time that I've seen with a lot of shooters is we tend to think our way is better than everybody else's way. That is not the case. Whatever suits you well, whatever gets you to the point where you're hitting the bullseye when you release an arrow, or you're harvesting an animal when you're out hunting, that's what you need to do, okay? Don't be so concerned about what everybody else says. Just take the opinion of others and weigh it against what your goals are and what your experiences are, okay? So without further ado, let me give you some points on either side of the coin, if you will. When it comes to split finger, we're gonna let that slide a little bit. Let's start out with 3-under. Now, 3-under, one of the things that I've really experienced when I used to shoot a lot of 3-under years ago is it's more of a forgiving release. That's number one. It is more of a forgiving release for multiple reasons. And what I wanted to do is I grabbed one of my bows, the only bow that I see on my rack that has a setup on the string for 3-under. As you can see, there's two knocking points. This string needs some TLC big time. This is my Super Kodiak by Bear Archery, and I just pulled it off the rack for demonstration purposes. I have not shot it in a long time, but here's the thing. You can see there's two knocking points on there. One is tied on for whatever reason, and one's just a crimp on one. You will put your fingers underneath the knocking point. When you release your first finger, your pointer finger will come off the string first. Do you see that? And then your middle finger and then your ring finger will come off last. That's when you do any type of shooting. When you do 3-under, you will go like this, and they're all bunched together. When you do split finger, they're separated. So the reason why I believe from experience it's more of a forgiving release is that all the fingers are close together versus when you have a arrow splitting the two fingers, your bottom two fingers and your top pointer finger, your opportunity to torque the string or to pluck more at the top than the bottom is heightened. So, but when you bunch your fingers up, it's one solid together release versus the opportunity to twist and turn and pluck and do things you shouldn't be doing. That's the reason why I believe it's a more forgiving release. So that's number one. Number two, it puts your arrow closer to your eye. So when you are shooting a traditional bow and you choose the release that you want to go with, if you go 3-under, your arrow is up here. So let me draw this bow real quick. So I go like this, draw my bow, and I anchor. Look how close that is to my eye. If I do split and I anchor with my middle finger, it's down here a little bit. Okay, I hope you can see that. Here, anchor point. Then I change here, anchor point. So there's a little bit of difference there. The reason why that's important is because even though I'm an instinctive shooter, if I'm honest, I pay more attention to the arrow than I probably think I do, especially if I have any shooting struggles. So most of us do. Most of us cannot be in a dark room with a laser pointer on a wall and grouping arrows over and over again in a dark room, not even looking at our arrow. That just is not going to happen for most shooters. Some people say they can do it, but most people that I've seen try to do it, they can't. So you pay attention to your arrow a lot more than you think. So when you're looking down that arrow shaft, down at what you want to hit, when it's closer to your eye, your dominant eye, you will most likely make better shots on what you're looking at. So that's why a lot of people like to go 3 under, because it raises that arrow underneath that dominant eye, and they use that shaft as a point of reference when they're aiming. Then you got number 3, fingers are stronger bunched together. Fingers are much stronger bunched together when you have 3 fingers together versus when you split them apart. From personal experience, I had a lot more strength, especially when I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have good back tension. I didn't have a good solid form. I went immediately from split over to 3 under because it was just easier for me to go 3 under, pull back one solid motion, and then release. Okay, and in those days when I first started shooting, I would do 3 under. When somebody gave me the advice, I went from split to 3. I would release and I would have touched my shoulder. Now, as you know, if you follow the channel, I don't do that. I haven't done that in years. But back then, I just kind of released, and then I would hit the shoulder like I was, grabbing a ball off my shoulder, if you will. So that is such an easy thing, and it was so strong, and I was pulling a high poundage bow. I started out in traditional archery shooting a 60-pound longbow, and when I did that, I didn't have the muscle memory, I didn't have the form, I didn't have the technique, I didn't have a shot process. And so that really played into the fact why I went to 3 under, because 3 under provides you with stronger fingers because they're bunched together in unison, and it covers up a lot of issues if you're trying to figure out your shot process, your form, and trying to get used to shooting traditional equipment. Number 4 allows knocks between 2 knocking points. Arrow knocks, between 2 knocking points. I've already showed you that. That's the difference. It goes between 2 knocking points. Great for when you're having this bow on a hook. Like you can see that this 59 Kodiak, this Super Kodiak is set up for hunting, right? Has a bear quiver on it, has arrows already on it, ready to go, tuned for this bow. If I hang this on a hook and the wind starts blowing, it can come off like that, right? But it's not going to fall off because that top is already there. So a lot of times you won't even need, because you have 2 knocking points, you won't even need an arrow holder for this. A lot of times, or most of the time, I shoot split finger when I hunt. If I'm hanging on a hook, I might have to put an arrow holder on there. This right here is so easy to kind of stay on there, and I barely have to use it. When I used to shoot like this, I just hung on a hook, ready to go. And so that's one thing it does do. It traps that knock between the 2 knocking points so it doesn't fall off as easy. Okay, so that's the selling point. But that is a difference between the two, okay, that you need to consider, how it knocks on the actual string. And then you got number 5 is designed for more calculated shooting. What do I mean by designed for more calculated shooting? Well, most guys that shoot 3 under, which is most people that you see at a 3D range or hunting or anything on TV today, most guys on the YouTube channels, they're going to shoot 3 under because of the advantages they get. Number 1, it puts that arrow closer to your dominant eye for aiming purposes. It's good for gap methods because that arrow is right underneath that dominant eye. For me, my dominant eye is my right eye. And in other videos, I can show you how to figure that out. But underneath your dominant eye is that arrow, okay? And when you put that 3 under, when you have 3 under that arrow, you can really string walk, and you can put different knocking points underneath here. You can do one at 20, you can do it at 30, 40, 50, whatever you want, and you can really raise that arrow up. So let's say this point right here on my string is 25 yards. I can go like this and literally look at that, and now I have a gap, and it raised that arrow up closer to my eye. You see that? So 3 under can cause you to be extremely accurate, because you can string walk, put different tied on knocking points for each yardage, as well as puts the arrow closer to your eye. And it's great for gap methods, where you would take your tip of your arrow and you would go up or down depending on how far you are from the target. And with that arrow closer to your eye, you're able to do both methods. Versus split finger, you're not going to be able to string walk, number one. Number two, you can do a gap method, but most guys that do gap method don't ever do it with a split finger, okay? Just doesn't happen. But you can do it if you want, but I'm just telling you the bigger difference is split finger is distinctive for the most part. 3 under is going to be everything else as far as aiming methods in general. Number 6 is, this is the modern day release method. Most guys that you go out and see shoot, like I said before, are going to shoot 3 under. Period, in the story. When I show up to a 3D shoot and I'm shooting split finger, I get looks. I just do, because it's not normal. Very nostalgic, very old school. But I like that. I have an old soul, if you will. And so I'm always been partial to split finger, but I had so much finger pain, so much bad form, so much bad advice when I first started in traditional archery, that I went to 3 under, even though split finger spoke more to me, and it caused me to want to shoot more, because it reminded me of Fred Bear, Art Young, Howard Hill, these guys that came before us. It reminded me of them, and I just wanted to model my shooting after some of the things that they did, and they all shot split finger. And so I like that old school approach. But the modern day shooter is going to be 3 under. That is the modern day way to shoot a traditional bow. So it's not bad, it's just what you prefer. So now let me get to my favorite way to shoot, which is split finger. Number 1, it allows you to shoot instinctively. Now, why does it allow you to shoot instinctively? Can you shoot instinctively 3 under? Of course you can. I've done it. But when you are purely instinctive and you want to be able to not have anything to worry about other than taking your, let me set this bow down. I got a longbow right here, my A&H longbow. If I take this longbow right here, what you can see is set up for a split finger. All I have to do is pull my arrow out of the quiver, drop it on the string, knock it, and it's ready to shoot. I don't have to find the knocking point. All I have to do is put my, and I knock also on the top. A lot of guys will knock on the bottom even when they shoot split finger. What that does is that doesn't allow you to shoot without looking. So if I'm out in the woods spotting stalking, sometimes I will use a quiver on the back, and I have a quiver that I am able to set up to where I have broadheads in it. I can pull out, put it on the string, and shoot. So I literally can pull it out of my quiver, look at what I'm looking at, focus on my spot, drop it down, rotate my hand, and shoot. I did that terribly there. But when I rotate, when I put it on the string and I'm always looking, and I go like this, go down and shoot, okay? As I'm talking to you right now, you can see a video what I'm talking about. I can literally take out of my quiver an arrow, rotate it on the string, and shoot without even looking at my arrow, my bow, or anything else. That's essential, especially when you shoot instinctive and you have an animal getting ready to get out of your shooting lane within 30 seconds or 15 seconds. And you want to make sure you're focusing on your spot and you want to hit where you're looking. That's the reason why I always am more partial to instinctive shooting, split finger, and able to knock above the knocking point. That way I have all the flexibility in the world to make a shot in a pressure situation. Number two, it allows you, it arrow knocks, above or below one knocking point. I've already said that. You can see there's one knocking point right there, and you're gonna knock above it, okay? Or below it, but I recommend you knock above for some of the things I mentioned because it gives you the flexibility to shoot very quickly on the fly, and it's also representative of what the old school guys did. This is how John Schultz, Howard Hill, Fred Bear, they all knocked above the knocking point. But for some reason we want to knock below. I don't know why, but a lot of guys shoot that way. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't allow you to shoot quickly when you need to. Number three, it's designed for quick decision shooting. This is designed for that because, like I said before, you're able to shoot very quickly out of the quiver. Now, if you use a side quiver, like I showed you on the Super Kodiak, then it doesn't allow you to shoot as fast. But if you're using a back quiver or a side quiver or hip quiver, if you will, it's going to allow you to shoot very quickly and instinctively. Then you got number four, fingers are separate and require better finger protection. They do, period. And I know that that's something that some people may disagree with, but for me personally, the reason why I went to this American leather glove right here initially, I think this is the buffalo leather with the reinforced tips, is so that I can shoot a higher poundage bow when I want to, split finger. Anytime I try to shoot a higher poundage bow 3 under and try to use a glove that wasn't this, at least like this, excuse me, let me go backwards. I didn't say that right. If I have a glove like this and I shoot it split finger, I'm fine. If I shoot a glove that is maybe soft leather or it's not as strong, it always hurts my fingers. It really rubs them pretty hard when I shoot split. But I was able to shoot any glove pretty much that I wanted to shoot within reason. That is, say they rated for a higher poundage bow 3 under, because they're grouped together, they're stronger, and they all release. But when I all release together, but when I separate them, is when I run into the issues. So you're gonna have to have stronger finger protection, in my opinion, if you shoot split finger. Just keep that in mind as you're selecting your shooting method. And then number four, which was that. Number five is quieter release. In my experience, it's definitely a quieter release because of multiple things. Number one is because you have a wider spread between your fingers. It's not just bunched all together underneath the knocking point and you release. And so you can really do a thud, you can really pluck the string really well. But when you shoot correctly and your fingers are rotated, see, a lot of guys will shoot and their fingers are at an angle. You gotta rotate that wrist and pull straight back when you're doing your draw cycle. But when you don't do that, that's when you can really mess up an actual split finger shot. But when you get it right, it's quieter because you have more surface area that you're spreading your fingers out, and now it dampens the sound a little bit, and your top finger and your middle fingers are separate, and it really allows for a quieter release. That's how I look at it. I can hear the differences. I have extremely good hearing, and every time I shoot a bow 3 under, it's quiet. It's not as quiet as it is split finger. And you'll see that many people think the same thing, and I tend to agree with that. Then you got number 6. Split finger is more nostalgic in traditional archery. It's way more nostalgic because most of the guys that shot over the years were split finger. You know, I know people have different releases all over the world, but here in America, it was either split finger or 3-under. But for a long time, everybody shot split finger. I remember some time ago when this is probably 15 years ago, when I was still messing around with the 3-under, and my brother-in-law comes behind the house and he says, "Why don't you shoot with the arrow in the middle?" He has no idea about traditional archery at all. He just asked me, "You shoot a little differently than what I've seen other people shoot before on TV or in hunting or different people in the family." And I said, "Well, it's because I'm just trying out the 3-under thing because, you know, I'm just struggling with the split because it's hurting my fingers and it's not as easy, it's not as forgiving to release," and I go through all the reasons. But he knew that it looked different than what he's seen on hunting videos back in the day, and different people shoot in the family and different hunters that are older than me. And so you can see that somebody that's really a novice that's just looking at traditional archery, they will see somebody shoot 3-under and it looks a little weird to them because of what movies have portrayed, what older hunters and older archers back in the day have done. They just think it doesn't look as natural. However, nowadays, if you go on TV, you got guys shooting 3-under most of the time in any Olympic event, any 3D event. Most hunters shoot 3-under, and it's their preference. But I wanted to share with you, and trying to do the best I can to give you the differences between split finger and 3-under from my perspective. What are your points that you would like to make between the two? Have you shot both ways? Do you prefer one method over the other? Put in the comments. Let's have a discussion about it. I'm interested to see what you think about it. I am more partial to split and have been for so long that it's hard for me to shoot a bow anymore 3-under because it just feels weird. So, but you tell me what you think about it. Put it in the comments. And as always, guys, I appreciate the likes, the subscriptions, turn on your post notifications, and I want you to remember something. You don't have to get ready when you stay ready. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later.